public comment on any items not on the agenda.
Okay. So,
Any item not on the agenda.
Hi, my name is Wes White. I'm a Salinas resident. Also just recently opened this new cooling shelter. I guess one of the things I wanted to address, and a lot of people are here to kind of, I guess, own up to, we're just facing music or whatever. Officially, we're not able to be sanctioned as a safe place to be, because we're not passing the building or the fire inspection. And what I'd like to ask, I've asked for your support and I've gotten it, and I'd like to continue to ask for some more support as far as getting maybe a 60-day extension on any kind of closure of the doors while I try to get a nonprofit status. I'm going to try to get fiscal sponsorship through the Action Council again. Last time I applied, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do because this didn't occur until a couple months after that. Homeless is a big deal to me. It's not my only deal, and that's actually what we started a day or a night program. We're going to try to extend it to a day program eventually, where we're just doing. People come in from organizations and they talk about their community causes and try to spark some interest in the residents. So the guys are union guys, and they are conscripted to do more service than the women. The women, the only thing they have to do is just follow the rules. They're strongly encouraged to come, but they're not told they have to come. The men, there's a mission, so they can go through the mission if they just want to do nothing, and do whatever they want to do during the day. But if they want to try to get an full positive experience in their life, this is a good route to go. It's not the only way to go, but it's a good way to go. And we're going to bring in motivational speakers, just people from different organizations, trying to get them pumped on volunteering with them. Because if they volunteer, then and they show up when they say they're going to show up, and they do what they say they're going to do, and they do a good job of what they did, then those are hireable traits. And if we can get them thinking as well, up on positive conscious, there's a high likelihood that they can be management material as well.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Wes.
Requesting a 60-day extension, please. Don't shut us down.
Okay, seeing no one else, we want to approve the minutes from the meeting of March the 17th.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Did you notice Councilmember Villegas isn't here at this meeting? He was unable to make it. He is still teaching school.
Oh, wow.
At school at, they're still in session. Yeah, so he's got another 2 weeks. I think I talked to him earlier and he said, sooner the better. I think he's been locked up with kids a little longer than he needed to be. Let's receive a report from the Community Development Department, Housing Division staff. Number one, the annual Inclusionary Housing TAC Committee discussion.
Mayor, Councilmember De La Rosa, members of the public, my name is C.J. Valenzuela, Community Development Analyst here for the City of Salinas. This item here is just simply for discussion, and this is basically, as most of you are aware, we're in the process of updating our inclusionary housing ordinance, which will go before the City Council tonight or this afternoon. And so one of the things that we had initially talked about with the ordinance is to review the ordinance, to do a full update and review of the inclusionary ordinance every 5 years. However, staff wanted to recommend, or at least bring for discussion to the council, to the committee, to do an annual, more like an internal or annual TAC review. In the years we don't do a full update, so we can kind of see how it's going, what, how many units were generated, what's working. So we are just bringing this item for discussion to see if this is something that the subcommittee would want to see going forward in between the full review years. So that's it, just a simple update. So.
Well, let me ask you this. Do we normally do that every 5 years? Is that what's been done in the past?
We normally review our housing, our inclusionary ordinance about every 5 to 7 years. Yeah.
So
about every housing element cycle. Yeah.
Doing it every year would give us a complete update as to what we should be doing.
Exactly, right. So that's just, if we have your blessing on it, we
Yes,
can coordinate that. So
That's a good recommendation, I think, by staff.
okay, great. Yeah, that's all I have for this item. Thank you.
Okay, now you're going to go to the next item. Who's doing the next item?
Homeless shelter. That's
This is Anastasia Wyatt, for anybody that doesn't know that. She's our guru in this area.
She's on the board. Okay. So basically, we wanted to discuss the homeless shelter need that we have. There are a few things before we jump into a homeless shelter that we really need to take a look at. So we have a permanent location is the first thing, the first step. Currently, there is no permanent location. We're working with the county to try to look for places that there might be a possibility of a shelter. The next step is an organization, either nonprofit or for-profit, that could actually run the shelter and manage it. And this is not a simple task. Staff has looked at the center in San Francisco, and they have security. They have a lot of protection on the building for people who are coming in. We spoke with San Benito County. They have security before you enter the shelter. If they find any drugs or any needles, those are removed immediately without any harm to the person, or they're not arrested. Nothing happens. It's just taken away and it's sent to the police station. So managing an actual homeless shelter requires a lot of forethought. So we need to identify the type of shelter. Should it be a traditional shelter or a low barrier shelter? HUD currently is interested in more of the low barrier shelter, which is, I think, probably the path we would go towards. Housing navigation is also a need with the shelter. We need a housing navigator to find rapid rehousing options for those that are in the shelter so that they can find their path to being housed. So we need the housing navigator to go out and look for housing, a permanent person that can do that, work with landlords, ask landlords to accept people who have Section 8 vouchers. We need a permanent funding solution that needs to be determined. We have a few options, but it could be expensive. So annual costs that we've figured at this time, and this is just an estimate, could be $700,000 to $900,000 annually. Other needs for a shelter: services that need to be provided for those staying in the shelter. It needs to meet the HUD definition of an emergency shelter. There should be a minimum period of use. Should not separate families. And it also needs, if it's HUD funded, it needs to meet certain standards. And case management is also a part of running a good shelter. So other needs that might be considered when putting the shelter together: childcare, education services, employment assistance and job training, outpatient health services, legal services, life skills training, mental health services, substance abuse treatment services, and transportation to the shelter. So when we looked at San Benito County, we saw a lot of these items. We've recently looked at their shelter. We've looked at it with Luis Alejo. We've been speaking to our council members about what are our options. So I would like to show San Benito County, this is their flyer. They have a bus pickup, transportation. They have 3 locations where they come and they pick up the population that wants to go into the shelter for the day. And that they have this in the Starbucks, they said. So people know where to go, and people are used to seeing the flyer. They said it's been the same flyer for about 3 to 5 years. These are also housing and homeless services that they have as a part of their shelter, and the new shelter that they're building. And the reason I keep talking about San Benito County, they're our partners. We work with them with our ESG funding, and currently we're utilizing part of the allocation from the state for our 2 county regions, San Benito and Monterey. They're utilizing about $200,000, a little under $200,000 to run their shelter. And the city of Salinas is managing that. Another part that they have here is the housing locator. We also have this. Our coalition is sending out what they're finding as far as available locations, that they also put in Section 8 possibilities. Landlords who are accepting Section 8. And that's where it comes down to the housing navigator. Our housing navigator needs to start talking to those landlords. It's a lot of work. So if we want to get people housed, we have to put in a lot more effort. So probably that's a whole nother staff person on top of just everything else. So those are some of the issues and needs we have with running a shelter and working with the county to try to find a location and try to find a shelter.
Yeah, so my question, Anastasia, would be, Wes, he wants to open up this shelter. I mean, he would have to fit all this criteria. I mean, this is the kind of shelter.
Yeah, and I think for any shelter to function, and we've been doing a lot of research. We've gone to several shelters in the state. We've really done some homework, and to do a shelter, to have a shelter work well for people is, I think, it requires a lot of different resources and cooperation. We may need a safety company to come in and do all of the pat downs and do the security before walking into a shelter. Just because you're taking different people who have different needs, families, women, you want to make sure everybody's safe and everybody's sharing a space for the night. It needs to be something that everyone can live with.
All of us can share a space together.
Mhm.
I mean, all of us do.
Well, you can let her talk. You'll get a chance, let her talk.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing. But that's what we're thinking of, that we want to make sure it's safe and healthy for everyone in the shelter.
And that there is a plan.
Yes, and I mean, beyond just, is the site zoned for it? Is it designed for a shelter? You look at the ghost ship, there are people being sued right now because they tried to open, that one was not a shelter, but it was a housing situation that wasn't safe and people died. And we are carefully, that is one of the most critical things. You don't want to be that person that said, hey, I have a shelter, everyone come on in and sleep, and you might die. That having unsafe conditions is the primary focus of finding a location. It has to be safe, it has to have sprinklers so that if something happens, anyone in the shelter would be safe and would be able to get out.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
My understanding is Monterey County has given money to Women Alive so far. Victory Mission, somebody's going to that. And they've been working on getting families into housing. Do you have an update on that by chance?
Well,
They claim to have been working on it.
yeah, as far as I know, there were families in the shelter, and we do, I've heard that they're supposed to be trying to get those families in the shelter. We actually had a family near our office that we've contacted, and I know that the county referred them to HRC, and we followed up with them. And that's kind of that housing navigation that we're talking about. My staff took the time one day to go out, speak to this family on 2 occasions and ask them, have you been housed yet? I met them last Thursday. I said, did anything happen? And they did have a meeting with HRC the next day, which was a good step. So I'm hoping that, I think there were 4 to 6 families that were supposed to be housed during that process after the shelter closed. And I know Elliot Robinson's here from the county. He might be able to talk about the progress on the housing of families. And we also, I know that Victory Mission and Dorothy's Place have submitted proposals that we have looked at, and so has the county. And I don't know if the funding has actually occurred or not.
I mean, I don't want a first-hand account about what's going on.
Yeah, please let us
I'll
know.
tell you, because I've been working with HRC. I've worked with
Yeah,
everybody.
we'll allow you to speak during that.
I'm not done with my questions.
Okay.
You said between $700,000 and $900,000 is what it would take to run this full-time year-round. Is that what you're talking about?
Right.
And who would our partners be other than us and the county?
That's what
I
needs.
don't think the county's, they budgeted $250,000. The question is this, how do we pay for this?
Right.
From your office, you get the money from, how do we pay for this figure?
So we do need to identify an organization, either nonprofit or for-profit, I think in San Francisco, their shelter, the Navigation Center, is run by a nonprofit. I think it's a Catholic Service Charities. Episcopalian, sorry. And I also believe here in San Benito, they're getting all grants for their shelter. There was some whole person care grant that the county, our county is also receiving. There's ESG funding, which, like I said, they're usually, we have a $500,000 approximate allocation annually at the city, and that amount, $300,000 of that funding is through the state, and $200,000 is through, well, it's all federal ESG money. And the general fund part of that amount right now is only a 3-year period. So after 3 years, we're gonna see if the state continues that funding. But these are the only allocations right now we could look forward to that we have in-house in addition. So it would be possibly, we would, if we don't receive a reallocation of that $300,000 from the state after the next 3 years, then we will have to go down to probably $100,000 to the county of San Benito, or maybe a little less because of population, and then 130 for us. So it would have to be considered either through a general fund measure or through whatever other funding sources the county might have. That's the picture over the next few years.
That's the big picture.
Right.
I understand that the county is having us look at a building this Friday.
Yes,
At Matilda and Laurel, the Weights and Measures building.
right.
You been in there?
I haven't
Any
been.
idea what we're looking at when we go out there? Is this, I think we had a road trip to the hospital and it didn't turn out very well, is my question. Is this going to be any better?
I don't know right now.
So you have a lot of work ahead of you,
Yeah.
coming up with a plan.
Definitely, and, you know, just identifying, we've identified some of the major needs we will have.
How much money do we have left over from this last year? Do you know? Somebody told me we have about $28,000 coming back or something.
That's my understanding, do you know? Okay.
Mayor and Councilmember Del Rosa, the estimate we believe is a little over $28,000 from the initial warming shelter that we participate in the county. You asked about the county and you're here, but I think they're considering a proposal that's about $250,000 for 5 months. That would provide some additional beds by Women Alive, and then also some additional housing for men. Women Alive would be for women, housing for men at Victory Mission. We sent some information regarding some code issues that we wanted to make sure those were addressed, as Anastasia pointed out. So $28,000 request for the county is to participate with them over the next 5 months. So that would be $250,000. And just to clarify what Anastasia was saying, when I have talked to the county, we're talking more than just one shelter. Permanently, we're talking several shelters around the county. And the best practices say you should decentralize these services, because Salinas isn't the only place that has a homeless issue. There's some on South County, there's some certainly in the peninsula side, and we need to work countywide for a set of solutions, not just one solution. So we've had some discussions with the county about, you know, redoing the plan, leaving home plan, and adopting, actually, and embracing more of the, what we know works in homelessness, which is the best practice.
Okay. The Lead Me Home Plan and the group that meets in Marina, Anastasia, you're aware that the Monterey County Mayors Association is now 4 mayors to start become very actively involved in that, to change the direction to go to getting people into housing as quick as possible. So, you know, it's Mayor Ralph Rubio of Seaside, Mayor LeBar from King City, Maria Orozco from Gonzales, and myself, and we all have alternates that are other electeds that will be replacing us if we're unable to make those meetings. So you will have to talk more about that. Elliot, if you'd like to say a few words before we go to the public. Come on up.
there are a lot of topics that came up, and actually, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Rose Elliott Robinson, I'm the Director of Social Services for Monterey County, over here. And certainly everyone's attention is on homelessness, and we're very pleased that the Lead Me Home Leadership Council structure is changed to incorporate more mayors and more political leadership from both the county and the cities and San Benito County. And I think one of the goals of the new structure is to figure out how we can look at this as a shared issue across jurisdictions and including philanthropy, not only just the public sector, because the challenges with homelessness, again, they cut across jurisdictions, they cut across housing, they cut across philanthropy, they cut across business, and it really does take a whole community. So that's the exciting part. We'll see where it leads. That's the challenge. In terms of the closing of the warming shelter, we've worked very hard with our contract through the CalWorks programs, the CalWorks Housing Support Program, to house every family. There were some family, I think there might have been, if I looked at my staff right, there was one family with some challenges going back and forth to the program. We are continuing to work with them, but I think every other family we actually did find a location for, and we're very pleased with that. In terms of the interim solution, while we figure out kind of the mixture of interim, long-term, again, hopefully in partnership, is to think of the Victory Mission and Dorothy's Place opportunities. Dorothy's Place, we're hoping we'll be able to reopen the Women Alive program by the middle of the month, so that's just over next week. I think June 15th is what we're aiming for. Victory Mission had explored the possibility of allowing women to come in, but the logistics of that got too complex. So that is not something that's ongoing now, but we're actively working with those two contracts, and we have the board authority to move forward as soon as we get all the county contractual procedures in place. So, and the authority does go back to when the operation starts, so that's confident. In terms of the shelter visit tomorrow, it is a more practical space, or not more practical, excuse me, thank you for that expression. The shelter visit on Friday, it's a more practical space than the other locations. And so certainly a possibility, and we want to certainly engage with the city and all our partners in saying, is this the location, or are there other locations? Because we know that the interim solutions in Chinatown are just interim. And even as we look at a shelter solution, here, the first kind of milestone is November 1st. That's that's a tall order. To have something in place by November 1st is semi-miraculous that we accomplished that last year. And we're going to aim for that again, but we'll have to get agreement from everyone that this location is the right location. And I think that urgency, that presence to say that we really do need to have a location is absolutely essential. And so hopefully we can start moving direction. A lot of the financing is still an open question. I know that makes people a little bit uncomfortable, but I think it's up to us to kind of identify location and then to work together, not only as just city and county, but cities and counties and philanthropy and hopefully private business to make a solution. And in the long term, we just have to pay attention to very affordable housing, again, across all the Monterey County communities. Housing that's available to people who are in 30% of the median income or less. That conversation. And we welcome partnership.
Thank you.
I just wanted to get into the urban initiatives that we're working with, the group Urban Initiatives for the Chinatown Plan. And they have recommended that we update the 10-year plan, and that we are currently looking at our planning with the Chinatown Plan and how we are going to reduce homelessness in Chinatown. And that is we've done a lot of work. We've done a little survey with about 60 people. We have about 200 that we counted within Chinatown and on Lincoln Avenue, where we also have a large homeless population. And Urban Initiatives is leading us in the direction to follow the best practices from HUD and to implement them as part of our strategy to reduce homelessness in Chinatown. And so having the 10-year plan updated at the same time in parallel with our planning efforts would really allow us to strategize. So that is one thing that we are looking at requesting with the coalition.
Now that you brought up planning, let's talk a little bit about it. My understanding is they would like to see us do more of getting folks into houses and getting them out of homeless shelters quicker than we can. Like
Right.
a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think the model right now and the best practices with HUD is to have a shelter. And from the shelter, you have the services, just like we saw with San Benito County. So San Benito has a packet, they have job placement, their shelter that they just purchased, that they're renovating for a permanent shelter is right next to the county offices. So people can just walk right over, get there was job center help, there's all the different needs they might have with the county, it's all right there. So it's really a nice strategy when you see it. And it's on a smaller scale than San Francisco. We are not San Francisco, but it's good to see the model, and it's good to see how our neighbors taking on this challenge. So, and because we look at the applications and we see, okay, how are they implementing this? How are they doing that? And are they following the best practices? And they are in every step of the way. And we do have a great coach with Urban Initiatives. I feel like we've really been able to look at our applications and our strategy and how we're funding, how we need to keep funding in the future to make sure that we have outcomes with people off the street and in housing. So that is the goal. And to have a shelter that allows, year-round, I guess, working with people and keeping them in the loop and keeping them on the goal and the path to being housed is critical. So I agree with Elliot, we need to have a long-term, year-round solution. And right now what we see in Chinatown, we've got Dorothy's Place, we have Victory Mission. We don't want to see them go away by any means. I think we'll always have a need for their services, but we also need to have this emergency shelter that implements all of the strategies, all the things that we saw here that we need to do to get people permanently stabilized and housed. And one piece that San Benito County did tell us is they have seen the first year of their shelter that I think they pretty much started about 3 years ago, but they've had a 30-year shelter that they've been running for families, but the more emergency shelter with single people that they're picking people up around the community. They have seen a reduction in the use of emergency services, police services. They said the first year they had calls all the time. The second year it dropped. The third year it dropped even more. So people are getting stable and not demanding of the system as much. So it's a good outcome and people are getting housed. They are always moving people towards that same goal. So
how many homeless people do they have at their shelter in San Benito County?
I think it was, I don't recall, do you remember? 70, yeah. Nightly. They have about 600, I believe, in the city.
No, I don't have any questions.
Well, we're going to open it up for the public for comments. We ask everybody to try to be respectful of each other. We realize we don't have it. We got Wes's camera on, so you'll be
Right?
held
Famous.
hostage for the rest of your life. Say bad things about each other.
That's right.
Step right up, sir.
Go ahead and get in line, Nathan, if you want. Anybody else who want to talk about what they think they want to see in a shelter? Go ahead.
My name is Kenneth Cox. I've been here since November, and I've been through one shelter, and I'm also in the shelter with West.
Make sure you talk really loud, please.
I want you to know. My question and everything is, what HUD presents and everything is all good in the long term, but for right now and everything, what does people on the street that are homeless that do it for now, because, I mean, they have, I mean, like down in Chinatown, they have a tent program, and then the police come along and they chase them out, and this is one, a couple solutions that I'm thinking of and everything is a safety zone, which was tried down in San Diego, which is where I'm originally from, which was voted down and everything else, and then the other solution and everything is to more or less take and make like a co-op, where that way the people that are around that area that are on the street, they can participate in rebuilding, redoing in buildings that are abandoned or whatever, where they can go in, make units and everything with people that know what they're doing, where that way then they can have a place that they can call home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Remember, you only get 2 minutes.
My name's Daniel, and I have been homeless ever since I got to California. And it's like when we had the warming shelter, it was like a place where you could come and sleep. You feel comfortable. And it's just like when it closed, they put some families in shelters, but some just get out. You know, you come back and you're gone. They don't have you. And then you have to come back to the streets. But yet you can see all these new buildings being made for people who have like money, apartments, houses. But yet when you can look at that and say, you don't have one. That just hurts.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Speak really loud.
We can hear you. Move around to one side so I can.
There you go. Yeah, look face to face. There you go.
There you go.
My name is Natalie, and since my brother and sister were born, it's been a little hard for me and my mom. But my mom's fun houses. We've been like swapping to houses and then like swapping to shelters. And when we found this one, it was like the one that we're in, I forgot the name already. It was like really good. It felt like deep because we didn't really want to spend the night at my grandpa's like always. It's a little hard for a lot of people to be on the streets because they don't like that other people have money to buy houses and stuff, and the rich people can make houses, but they just can't make shelter. That's a little weird. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Natalie.
Hello, my name is Samantha, and I have to say one thing to those people who have more money than everyone else. One thing I actually don't really get is that they like to spend their money on themselves, but they don't like to actually help us people that don't have any homes. And that's one thing I am very sad about. And I keep on asking myself, what am I going to do if I actually achieve my goal? Like, what am I going to spend all the extra money that I have? Because me and my sister are planning on building a homeless shelter when we grow up for the homeless people, for every single homeless people. And we have a couple friends that are really wanting to help us. So one of our friends are going to do the clothing. I'm going to do the food, and I forgot what she's going to do. But I asked myself, what am I going to do with the extra money that I have after I'm done helping them all? And then it actually just hit me right now. I already know what to do. I'm going to buy them all a house, and I'm going to give all the rest of my money that I have to them, and I'll keep whatever other money I keep on making them, I'll just keep on giving it to them. let's see if you guys I can learn that even this is what people. I don't know how to say.
Thank you, Samantha.
Samantha. Out of the mouths of babes come wisdom here. Your community, you have a compassionate community here that wants to help out. When they see people suffering, when they see people on the streets with backpacks and bedrolls, people who are sick and hopeless and beaten down, they know in their hearts that we who can are supposed to help them. You are responsible for the people in your path. The people, when you're going about your ordinary business every day and you see these people who are hurting and needy, you are responsible for helping them, especially those electeds who have been given power and resource and ability. Now, my name is Becky Johnson, and I have plenty of experience in this field. I was even on a nonprofit board of directors for 4 years up in Santa Cruz County. And we ran the Interfaith Satellite Shelter Program, the Homeless Garden Project, and the Page Smith Community House, which is a transition building. So I understand about these budgets. I understand how, when you run up these budgets, somehow it gets too expensive to actually implement. And then we throw up our hands and we say, oh, we want to help, but it's just too expensive. That's not an answer. And tonight, there are people who are out on the streets and they are at risk. Their health is at risk. Their sanity is at risk. Their ability to function, their ability to hold a job, their ability to find work is impacted negatively simply because they're out of doors. And we have just ordinary people who have stepped into the fray to fill the gap that the County of Monterey has neglected for, what are we on, our second 10-year plan to end homelessness? My time is up. We're saving lives every night at that shelter. You better put some waivers in and allow this to function until you find your solution, whether it's now or 10 years from now.
Thank you.
My name is Tom, and I want to, about what she was saying, the responsibility falls on all of us. But for me, what you're talking about on the back end of this, the housing, you need to work on that because we all go through the process, but the housing don't happen. I know people have been on the Section 8 housing waiting 3 or 5 years. Okay, so. Okay. On the other end, for us, that's the long term. On the short term, those homeless people, we're not thinking about that. We're day to day. And what Wes has done here, and Wes has been, I was part of the flagpole last year, and that was fantastic. So on the short term, what Wes is doing right here, just when the other one shut down, all of a sudden Wes was there, we had this one. And I heard you talking about sprinklers, codes, and all this. So please don't shut it down because of that, because we can work through that. As far as the manpower and all this, part of what Wes is doing right here is to be a part of the shelter we're in right now. We're going to become a union, join a union, and we will police ourselves, and we will be out there, and what the community needs, we will be there. But basically what I got to say is, I've heard a lot about the back end of this where the HUD and everybody's supposed to be housing all this, but that ain't working. Because, you go through the filter and all this, and not a lot is coming out of that. But on the short term, I see families here, I have a couple families here, and they need a place to sleep tonight. On the short term, please do not take away their place to sleep tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Boy, how you go?
Mayor, I'm Joan Sassman.
Louder, please.
Nathan and I have been, we stayed at the warming shelter, and the county had to pay for us to go into a hotel after. And then HRC kicked in and was supposed to pay for our hotel until the 12th of this month. And yesterday night we came home, I work at Northeast Kitchen, and we walked over to Kern, and all of our stuff was removed from our hotel room. And I called HRC, and she said, no, your checkout was today. So yesterday, Nathan and I were back out on the street. And I asked HRC, well, where am I supposed to go with my kid? I don't know, was her reply. And it really hurts. I mean, and I am glad that this man right here had the shelter. Otherwise, I would have been illegally throwing up a tent to put a roof over my son's head. And, you know, I'm working 40 hours a week. I'm doing everything that, you know, Elliott and the county requires of me to be able to have what Cal works, and I'm working through Goodwill, and there's lots of organizations like Goodwill and Salvation Army and all of these that can help y'all build a shelter. In Oklahoma City, we have 2 huge shelters. I mean, they house 672 people a night. This is California. This is the place that helps people. Oklahoma doesn't help people. And they've got better shelters. Y'all don't even have a family shelter here. I mean, to me, coming from out of the state, I really wonder, what's wrong with Salinas? What's wrong with Monterey County? They don't have a family shelter. And, you know, every day I see Jill and them going out to raise money to keep Dorothy's place going. And all of these people, this is a community here. This is a beautiful community. We all help each other and we support each other. And we need places to live. We need a stable life. And that's, I'm working for it. I'm working hard to get there. Thank you.
My name is Marcos. I like to say, you know, this thing is a warming shelter, right? And it's kind of hard and difficult to understand how you guys say, you know, there's no money. Everything is donated. I mean, how could this place not be open if everything is donated? There's nothing you guys pay for to put the light in the building. So it's hard to understand how you guys say there's no housing, there's no room to put these people when the food, everything is donated. The water, there's no showers that people take showers, so you're not wasting water, right? But it's hard to understand how, you know, you guys say this is a place that, you know, everything is donated. It's hard to understand how you guys say there's no money. There's a warming shelter, you get paid for the light to be on. The people are sleeping on the floor, they're not giving kind of like beds out or something. That's what I was like.
West White again. I think kind of what we're getting at is the value of people. It's not necessarily the dollar amount that we got. And we're overlooking a lot of human potential, like the security and stuff. I mean, it's back to the community issue of how do we treat people, how do we value people, and that's one of the core things. I mean, there's so many people left out. And they're good people, they're decent people, and they follow rules. They gotta follow rules or else they can't even get in the shelter. So obviously, you know, they're more housing ready than anybody else. Yeah, still personal choices, but we gotta be the positive role models to begin with. And that's, you know, that falls on public service entities, like, you know, the government. And obviously it's getting torn apart left and right, it's dying on the vine right now. But there's still a lot of potential, and you know, it's having the right idea. Is basically, hopefully that'll overpower the money, because we can do it. We can do it together, and we've been doing it together this whole week. I don't see any real, you know, other direction than just going up and growing out. So that's one way to go, but that's also considering that everybody is inherently evil. And I guess I'm on the inherently good side, but of course you got to be gentle, firm, and consistent with people, and you got to have boundaries. I think it's just a way to treat people, you know. We don't even treat our kids well. That's why I'm not even subbing anymore. I'm trying to take care of people out in the real world instead of just talking about it in the classroom. You know, there's more than one way to go, and that one's a good way to go too, because that's what you've been doing. That's all you know, and this is a different avenue, and hopefully we can meld them together.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm one ladies that stay at the shelter that the residential community city. I've been through so much. I've had my Section 8 voucher at home, and due to my health issues, I've lost a lot. I've had Section 8 voucher for 6 months. They gave me 3 extensions. I wasn't able to get a place because they had 3-4 times the amount of the rent. If I had it, I wouldn't be homeless. I wouldn't be on the Section 8. I wouldn't qualify for it. And now, West, if you wouldn't have opened that door, us ladies didn't have nowhere else to go at night. And what little we do have, they want to take it away again until in November. And it's just like this lady said, what was she was gone last night with her little boy. My kids were taken away for 6 months because I didn't have to pay for them. I did everything possible to get them back. My kids are grown now. They have their own place. They're gone. And due to my health issues, I can't find a place. I don't have a home because I don't meet the requirements of it. So what was the use of having Section 8 and everything if those places that you guys keep building, the houses, the apartments, whatnot, are extremely ridiculously priced? You know, it's like if I had 3-4 times, I wouldn't be asking. I volunteer left and right, whatever I can do. I don't just take. I try to, give back, earn what I'm asking for. Everything is donated and whatnot, yes, but I also think we're out there participating, doing what you guys ask of us. Why can't we have somewhere at least be able to stay? Even if it's not our own place, but we have somewhere to stay at night.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gina. Well, I'm fortunate for me and my children to have a home under the Section 8 program. But I fought cancer, I fought it twice these past 3 years. I still go out in the community and I take my 9-year-old son. Today we handed out a case of noodles with a cold water bottle and a Kool-Aid. I try to do that often. My whole thing is I don't understand. I'm going to start volunteering more. I've been in Denver. I lived in Denver for 12 years. I've seen how it was implemented and organized, and I'm going to try so hard to give new ideas. My thing is, if the community monitoring county needs muscle work, I think ask the guys out there. I'm sure they were willing to clean, sweep, demo, do stuff. And my husband, he was an electrician. He stopped doing it for various reasons, but I'm sure there's a lot of men and women out there that have professions that they now can't do it because of certain reasons. I'm sure they'll bust muscle out. They'll sweat for what they can get and help the community. So tonight I'm gonna go volunteer at the shelter and my kids will be fine, but I'm saying, you guys need muscle work, ask people, hey, who's gonna volunteer? Who's willing to get this all cleaned up? Come on, we got like 3 days to clean this up, make it look nice because we're gonna have a inspection. Get these guys, get these women said, hammer, nails, broom, shovels, everything, I'm sure they'll do it. Just ask and I'll even help. I'll try. My 9-year-old son did it today. I took him to Chinatown. We were with him. We let him out the water. We let him do this because it's good for our family and for him to realize nothing is not given. You see, and our long term is be grateful for what we give our children. But as far as the other part, this I'm sure I'm going to get it and I'll try. I want to understand I'm 51. I want to be at 60 saying this is what I did to the community. But ask for muscle work. I'm sure the guys will do it, and the women too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know I've already been up there one time.
You've already been up once.
You're done.
Oh, that's why I get it? I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry.
You get one bite of the apple. Ask poor Wes. He's poor one back up.
I wish I remembered to say this part before I went up.
You're all right. You get next time.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Dela Rosa, Gloria Moore. I'm here today to learn. It's a big subject, and there's many of us that you know, our understanding of it is very shallow because there's so much going on in all of our lives. Whether we're homed or homeless, life is very complicated. It's not as simple as it used to be. But I have a couple questions, if I might ask. Number one, I would like to know what is the difference between a traditional or a low barrier shelter. I think that is important for the community to know and understand that, not only the community that's here, but the community that's not here. My other question is, who gets to evaluate the risks versus the rewards? And the risks certainly are for those that are having to live on the street and deal with everything that goes on out there. What are the rewards that they can receive? I would say that being able to shelter them is certainly reduces the risk that goes on for them. So how do we look at those two things and say, here are the risks and here are the rewards? And how can we make the rewards greater than the risk? I think that's a goal that we should try to accomplish. As you all know, my field profession is housing, and every day we receive probably anywhere from a dozen to 4 dozen requests for people looking for housing. The problem is Salinas just does not have enough housing. And you know, with the new housing coming online, I think the city really needs to make a commitment that you're going to provide housing for the people that are in this community and need that housing. So I think we really need to look at that. Everybody is looking for those bottom 2 rungs on the housing ladder. And as we continue to remove those bottom 2 rungs by not providing enough housing, we have more and more people falling between the cracks and living day to day, hoping that they are not going to be the next family out on the street. Thank you.
I'd like you to explain the difference between I know what the difference is, the low barrier and the traditional warming shelters or emergency housing, or whatever you want to call it.
So HUD is moving to a model where you have low barrier, where anyone can, as long as you follow simple rules, can enter the shelter. And so like I said in San Benito County earlier, they can come to the door if they have drugs on them, if they're intoxicated in some way. The shelter will take them as long as they're not causing harm or anything to anyone else. But there are still some basic rules. You can't harm anyone else. You can take the drugs or any alcohol that might be on them and just take it off of them before they enter the shelter. We saw that as well at the navigation center. Everything is, they check them. You go through security before you go in, and that is a low barrier shelter, just to make sure everybody inside is safe. A traditional shelter, if you look at Victory Mission, for example, in our community, they have been running a traditional shelter where you have to be a male, you need to pray, you need to, kind of listen to what they want you to listen to. But Victory Mission is changing now, and they are turning into more of a low barrier shelter. They realize the need in the community, so they're moving away from that model to meet the demands and the needs of the community. So we are seeing that trend more and more because it opens up the door for funding. Federal funds tend to prefer the low barrier methodology, and it opens up doors for us. So if you look at Methodist Church, that also is a low barrier type of facility. Anybody can come in, you don't have to pray. Anyone is able to get clothing, get food, rest there for the day, attend. They offer AA and NA meetings. Everybody is welcome to partake in any of the services they offer. So that is a low barrier model.
Do you want to make your comments, Gloria?
Well, yeah, I'd like to make a comment, and I have a question. Some social services is here. And we have some families that I'm very concerned about. Why why aren't you working with your social worker? I mean, that could be addressed after, but, I mean, yeah, so I just don't understand why they took your housing away. So that can be dealt. But going back to Wes, I just want to tell you, you do have a big heart. We all agree that, because you want to provide shelter. But again, in hearing all this and understanding, every single one of us here, we do have compassion for everyone. We do. Let me tell you, we wouldn't be putting all those monies into shelters, and we're going to have housing pretty soon, I hope, with Mid-Penn. And I just want you to know that you have to really have a plan, and it has to fit all the criteria. And we need to try to have Wes, you work with us.
Please.
So we can make a shelter happen and work together, because we just can't, say, I think I'll open up a shelter and then take those risks that could happen, and you wouldn't want that to happen, believe me. If something was to happen, a fire or something, it just cannot happen. So for you to say that we're not doing as much as we are doing, because you can see we're doing a lot. But again, we need to work together, and I ask you, the families that are here right now, is to work with social services. They are here, they're supposed to be working with you, and they're supposed to be working with you and trying to help you, and all the ideas that we're getting from San Benito and Anastasia, everyone from housing, the county is here. We're trying to look for a shelter, a center. I would call it a center, because it's going to have all kinds, and it should have all the services that you just mentioned. But I just wanted to say that, you have to have a plan that's going to be safe for everybody. Okay? And why, my question is, how long is it going to take Women Alive to be able to get these families, women into Women Alive? Do you know?
Yeah, I spoke to them last Friday. We met with all of our ESG providers to try to target our funds, and just a quick information, in Oakland, after the Ghost Ship fire, there was a transitional living facility, and they didn't have proper sprinklers, and it caught on fire, and I believe 2 people were injured or died. So that was right after the Ghost Ship. So it is serious. You don't want to be in that position where people get injured or die because the facility isn't up to speed. And that was the title of the article. Here we're trying to house people and do the right thing, but we're actually putting them into unsafe conditions, and that's just not acceptable. So when I did meet with Jill Allen on Friday about Women Alive opening up, she is expecting it to open in about, I believe she said mid-June, and we're almost there. So hopefully, the city is currently funding that program, so we need it to be open.
Yes.
We funded it to be open the entire year, so for it to not be open when we are funding it is a problem for us.
And tomorrow there's a meeting, and I invite you, we have a meeting tomorrow, right, Gloria? On
the
Soledad
Healthcare
Street
Services
with,
Center?
The Soledad Board, and I'd like to address also what's going on with Jefferson Street. We have some housing units out there, and I want to know how many people live there. Okay, so those are my comments, to keep working together, and I guess Mr. White must have a permit if he has a shelter open, right? Or yeah?
No, I don't.
Okay, so where we are we okay with that, or what?
That's one of the things he's willing to take for us people.
Okay, let them talk. It's their meeting.
Well, I got a couple of concerns. One, I think we need to reach out to Jill sooner than later and say,
Yes.
We've written the checks, we have the money available, she needs to be open. I'm not throwing her under the bus, it's just a matter of fact, that's money that we get from the federal government. So we want to keep getting federal money, we can't play games with it. Because these folks are counting on having a place to live, and I appreciate that. And I understand their concerns, I understand the concerns of the family. I'm glad Elliot's here, and he'll be meeting with you as soon as we're done. So we'll capture him before he gets away today, to make sure you're taken care of. Look, he's heading for the door. No, he's not. He's standing there patiently waiting. I get him, he's pretty brave. He comes in here, and I think what we're seeing is now, the city of Salinas is taking the lead on this. Have we done an outstanding job? We did the best we could. We're not really good at this, and I'll be the first to tell you that. We woke up one day and they said, you're gonna address this homeless issue. We had never done that. We didn't have a clue, okay? So we opened the warming shelter. We started the first warming shelter in this county. We have a lot of people in this county that need the services, and we need to work together and make it work, and we will get there. And it's just taking, I know that everybody wants the new world is, if you can get it on this thing, we should have answers right now. That's not the real world, folks. So we understand that, and we understand. And somebody mentioned money. Yes, we have our limitations because this is one of many issues in the city, and we know that we've been partnering closer with the county on this issue. I foresee some good solutions coming. Will they be perfect? No, but I think there's an opportunity here for us to continue, and we need to keep the dialogue open. As Gloria said, there's a meeting on Salinas Street tomorrow, and I think in the future, if we keep working together, we will see good results, and that's what we got. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank our staff. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.